Hey everybody, Landy here with another painting challenge video for Paint All the Minis. This is September's video, which specifically was a challenge to paint an HQ model or a character of some sort. And we had a lot of great entries this month. Um, there were quite a few that made it very tough to pick a winner. Um, but we're going to go ahead and, without further ado, get on to the video. That way you guys can see all the awesome minis that everybody did this month. Okay, so first up we have Joshua Lanehorn with a Chaos Lord of Slaanesh. Um, this particular figure that he turned in, I saw it getting painted in progress as it happened. I gotta say, the thing that stands out most about this one is the purple. Not only the sheer amount of it, but how well it was done. Um, One of the things with painting purple, as I found out this month when I was painting the Joker, um, is that depending on the brand of paint, it's either going to be a very opaque color or it's going to be very translucent. You don't really get an in between, um, which makes it kind of difficult sometimes to gauge how you're going to do it. But the most important thing is always to do the thin layers because you can build it up, but you can't take it off once you've put too much on there. Um, and Josh did a really good job with the purple on his. And then he used what I think is probably either Balthazar gold or maybe brassy brass or something to that effect on the metallic areas to kind of complement that purple. Um, but he did a really great job with a little bit of OSL on his eyes too, and on the plasma pistol that he's got. So great job there. Okay, next up we have Russ Sick, who turned in a converted gore priest of Khorne, um, one of my favorite models for the new range of Age of Sigmar. But I really like this one because he took it and made it his own by adding that Chaos Knight shield and the lance, well, lance halberd, whatever you want to call it, and doing a really good job of keeping it simple but very, very clean work. And then that face that he put him on is just over the top epic. Um, really, really sets the mood of this guy kind of being like a real badass in his group, ready to fight anybody and all challengers. Maybe he's even in that the Gore Chosen arena fighting for his life. But great job with that one. Next up, we have Kim from the Dice Miniature Paint Guy. Um, he's done a couple of figures for us this month, if I can find them here in the group. There we go. Um, he did a converted Typhus and a converted Demon Prince of Nurgle, which I just have to say, I know that Nurgle had a huge release of stuff this month, um, so lots of inspiration to be had all over. Um, his Typhus is suitably gribbly. Um, love the work that he did on his stomach and making it look like everything is falling out, um, and all of the effects that he used to make it look gross and nasty. And on his Demon Prince, the thing that really stands out to me is the amount of conversion work that went into it, because it's got a, if I remember right, he said it's got parts from a Demon Prince, um, parts from a Feated Bloat Drone, um, parts from a Tyrannid, and I believe something else, but I can't remember right now. But all those things combined turned into a really gruesome Nurgle Demon Prince. that you'd hate to see across the battlefield coming at you. And again, with all the technical paints, he's really done a good job of adding all the gore and juicy bits and sticky bits, if you will. So great work as always, Kim. Let's see here. The next one we have is Alan Kitching with his Reaper Viking Jarl. The thing that really stood out to me with this particular model was the way that it's a single piece model, which sometimes people kind of go and immediately write them off as maybe not having as much detail or being kind of bland. This mini is anything but that. It's very, very detailed. And Alan did a really great job of picking out all that detail. It sort of, I guess the neat thing about some of the Reaper figures is that you can use them in a fantasy setting, or you can use them in a historical setting if you're playing something like Saga, for example, as long as it's not too over the top. And that's exactly what this Jarl fits in, because you can see that it's got some sort of like almost fantastical elements to his armor and stuff. But if you're playing a game of Saga or something casual like Dragon Rampart, something like that, you could find a home for this guy in just about any army. And Alan did a great job of keeping it simple, but picking out all the detail on him, and then also kind of taking probably either a black ink wash or maybe just some really thin down black paint and kind of tracing around all of the detail on his hands and feet, for example, and other areas, which gives it almost like a comic book feel, which I really like, almost like a bit of a cell shading technique there. So great work on that one. Let's see here. Next up, we have Mark Venard, and he did Epic Resnick from the Privateer Press War Machine Menoth Army range. I've only ever seen this particular model done in the studio paint scheme of white and red, but he's chosen to do a purple palette with purples and whites and some cooler metallic colors. And then you got some really rich gold that just is mind-blowingly good on this one. The placement of the chariot itself on top of some well-placed corkboard and stuff really gives a sense of weight and presence to this model. So this is definitely the centerpiece of the army. He also did a really great job of picking out the like the sacrifices, if you will, on the sides of the chariot. Also, it looks like there was quite a bit of work done on shading and highlighting the blades on the back end, which is really cool because it seems like you could just reach up and grab one of those and chuck it down. So great job with the metallics on those. The chain also, I believe what he did is cut the original ones that are supplied with it and used his own chain connecting the horses to Resnick, which is a small detail, but it really shows up well once the model's painted up. So really great job there. Let's see here. Our next entry is by Samuel Lachance, Orc Knob, and I remember when I saw this one pop up, the first thing I thought was awesome work with the checks and dags, because it's a simple paint job, but orcs are anything but fancy, so this really worked. And I think he did a great job with the boss pole as well. Sometimes the simplest, cleanest paint job can really make a knob in a squad of boys, or you know, the knob leader of a group of knobs stand out. And I think this is probably a knob that was going with squad of boys, so this guy would definitely stand out as the knob. There's no mistaking him. But a really great job with the flesh tone, Really great job with dirtying up the metals, and then there's also a little bit of wear and tear on the power claw, which I thought was really nice. So, really awesome job there, Sam. Next up, we have Jason Turner, um, who did an entry by the Dust Studio, Paulo Parente specifically, called The Winter's Child, um, for the SSU faction in that game. Um, and you see this guy, and the first thing you think is Russian Iron Man, especially because of the big red star in the center, and then the glowing OSL effect that he did on his fist weapon there, beam or something that's going to be charged up and shot out. Um, but I think my favorite aspect of this model has to be the attention to the weathering on this brass and copper on the armor. Um, he did a really great job picking out all the verdigris and dirt and grime on all the edges and stuff. It really makes the model have a worn look, but more importantly, adding all those weathering layers um, helps to create shadows, and then highlighting them with other colors again really brings out um, everything that we want on this particular figure to showcase. All the rivets, all the little areas where the verdigris is collected, and things like that. So, really great job with that one. Then next up, we have Pierce Brandt, who did 2 different minis. I'll start with his first submission, which was specifically he called it Void Captain Voton Mr. Big Draxus. Um, he said it only took him a couple of hours to paint, but the job definitely looks very awesome for a 2-hour paint job. He paid really good attention to detail on Drax's armor, and then also picking out like the power cabling, and then writing a little bit of graffiti on his armor codpiece. That's the latest fashion nowadays, armored codpieces. I've got one myself. Comes in handy sometimes, let me tell you. But I think my favorite effect on this figure has to be the giant chainsword that he's got hoisted up on his shoulder. Um, I'm not sure what Pierce used, and I'd love to know for sure, but he used some type of gore effect on there to make it look like Drax has just got done making a point, and that point was received loud and clear. And, bits and pieces were probably left behind. But the skin looks great, and it goes against the armor, the metallic color of the armor really well. And the dark of the boots, and then the bright red of the viscera and stuff in the chainsword just really makes this model look clean and look good. So stellar job as always, Pierce. The next model that Pierce did, and I'm probably going to butcher the name because I'm terrible with certain names, was a Polish officer named Stanislaw Francesc Sosbowski. So if I got that right, I feel so good. If I didn't, I am terribly sorry. Somebody can correct me about that. But the paint job on this guy is super clean, really good, really well done, picking out the details of his face. I believe this is going to be a bolt action scale mini, so 28 millimeter. But it looks like box art. I mean, it's really clean, really good work on the camo pattern that he's got, and then like on all his webbing and everything. Pierce has done a great job of picking all that stuff out. And then on his beret, just keeping the highlights simple but sharp enough to stand out. Picking out the eagle on his beret as well, and then doing the lining at the edge, and kind of showing a hint of hair. It looks really great. I'd love to see the rest of the figures for this unit or for this army if Pierce is working on more. And then the last little thing that stands out to you is the helmet down on the floor. Not sure if it's one that he might have just killed the soldier that was wearing it, or maybe they got them to surrender. Who knows? But it's little elements like that that add a little bit of story to it and make you draw attention to the model as a whole. And awesome job, though. Like, definitely looking forward to doing some stuff like that with my bolt action stuff. If I get around to doing it, I should get around to doing it. I'm gonna do it because you guys are inspiring me to do it. Next up, let me see here. Oh, I lost my place in my set notes here. There we are. Damian Morley. Damian Morley did a converted typhus. Again, with all of the Death Guard releases this month, um, there's been an influx of virus and contagion in the group. But the really nice thing about his is that he took the Lord of Contagion and converted it into typhus um, really simply, because it looks like all he did was cut down the axe and flip it on its side so that it looks like a scythe, which is really, really clever on his part. And then kept the paint job on the armor pretty simple, um, just the usual Death Guard greens, and then the smoke that he um, has coming out of the two sensors and then the ones on his side. Um, Damien went ahead and did like a light blue color on them, which really helps to offset the dark and grungy greens and browns. Um, and then on his base, he kept it simple, but it looks like he put some Agrellan earth down to kind of give a crackled effect, which really, really adds something to the model as a whole. Kind of like a blighted world that's left and turned to dust and ash because of the virus bombing or something like that. But yeah, overall, really great job with that one. Let's see here. Next up, we have Jamie McKendry, who turned in Asterion Moloch of the Minotaurs chapter from Forge World. I think I've only seen the studio paint scheme of this. I hadn't seen anybody actually paint it. But Jamie did a really good job creating a base for him and then tying in his pose into that base because he's kind of deflecting something with his shield and holding his spear to make another thrust with it. It almost looks like um, the model has so much detail, um, but that's usually the case with Forge World models. The thing that stands out to me most on it is the shield and the way that Jamie's gone in and kind of weathered everything around the edges, probably with like a quick dry brush and stuff, and then picked out the detail on the Minotaur symbol and then the laurel at the bottom. And then in the one photo that shows the shield, you kind of see something that stands out on the cloak, and it makes you wonder, what is that? And then you look at the next photo, and it's the back of Moloch with his cloak. Now, I think this is all decal, but if this is hand-painted, um, Jamie, that is mind-blowingly good, man. Kudos to you for that. What is your secret? Um, I'm not sure what it says exactly in the Greek alphabet, but I do see that it says "fear us." Um, that's really awesome work down there that just kind of makes you want to spin the model around and see more and more detail as you turn it. So really great job with this one. I've always admired the Minotaurs chapter. I've never painted them myself, but I like the gold and red color. Very reminiscent of like the Spartans from 300. So great job with that one. Next up, we have Brent Henry, who did a Goblin War Boss on a giant spider. Brent's always got some really cool Goblin-related stuff recently, um, and this entry was no different. I really like the spider itself, but I like the boss and all the work on his kind of feathered mask and everything that he's got. Um, as far as like the plumage and the mask itself looking like it's almost made of bone and tusk and stuff. And then you can see the webbing on the back as well. It looks really neat. But then the thing that draws your attention even further is the log and something that's over on the bottom of it. And then when you look closer, you see that it's a couple of dead bodies covered in webbing. I think he green stuffed that webbing onto them to make it look like maybe the spider has had a feast there some time ago, and is maybe returning to its old stomping grounds for some food. So awesome job picking out the spider. I'm surprised that the other spider that he was working on wasn't for this one, but this war moss is definitely pretty cool looking. So I'm glad that he shared this one with us. Great work as always, Brent. Next up, we have Patrick Odell, who from day one has been working on this project here. His Primaris captain, I believe he was treating him as a captain, for his custom chapter called the Scarab Lords. Um, this aesthetic that he's got going is almost like a loyalist Thousand Sons, um, but cooler, because he's started developing his own backstory for them and everything. Um, and the bits and pieces that he's chosen to use give you that sense of the aesthetic of the Thousand Sons, like the Egyptians and such. Um, but it doesn't make you immediately think that they need to have the space wolves come down to their planet and destroy everything. um, the attention to detail on this one is really good. He's got tons of purity seals, really great clean work on his tabards, and then on his helmet, he's got these two markings. I'm not sure if maybe they're kill markings or maybe that's like his insignia to let everybody know that he's a captain. And then he's got this scarab piece up above him, and the Kopesh sword that really evokes that setting of the Egyptians and the Thousand Sons motif. So just stellar work with this one all around. And the base is just simple desert texture, but that works because it just keeps your attention on the figure more than anything else. So this is definitely one of my favorites for this month, for sure. Next up, we've got Pasha Van Wolfen, who turned in two different figures. He did a Lord of Contagion and a Demon Prince of Nurgle. The Lord of Contagion is just stunning work. Really chunky, rusty, nasty looking um, weathering done on him, and super clean colors on the armor that make him pop out. And then the sensor colors with the smoke look really good because it's kind of blending together. Look like it's a lot hotter than it is, which is a really great effect to apply on stuff. And then you can't really see the stomach because it's obscured by the axe, but you can tell that he did a really good job with picking out all the gribbly details and stuff on that one. And on his Demon Prince of Nurgle, it's a very similar paint scheme, so this army definitely has some real strong cohesion in terms of armor colors and stuff, but also in the palette colors for like their skin and the rotting flesh and stuff like that, glowing runes. The Nurgle Prince is probably one of my favorite Demon Princes. I know there's a couple out there right now, and now there's a plastic kit, but the original Nurgle Prince is probably my favorite one by far. Fine cast or metal. But this one's really cool with all the chains and stuff hanging off of the sword. You did a great job adding that rust texture and verdigris to it. So, killer work as always, man. Keep it up. Next up, keeping in theme with all the Nurgle entries that we had this month, Jack Maiden turned in a Mortarion that just Mortarion, the new model, is just stellar, and Jack did a great job picking it out, keeping it in that green theme, very much like the studio paint scheme with the purple on the robes and cloaks, and then the brass colors for the metallics. And then he highlighted all of that stuff with a real simple base to keep the attention on Mortarion. This one is not as dirty as some of the other ones, but I really enjoy that it's not, because it's got so much color and so much detail that the paint job just kind of lets everything speak for itself, and you can kind of wander around the mini and see all the individual details, because there's not a whole lot of weathering in certain areas that obscures detail. Not that that's a bad thing, though, because sometimes with the Nurgle stuff, you want a lot of weathering that kind of makes stuff look worn down and like it's missing. Because of how much detail is on this one, keeping that paint job clean and simple really makes it stand out. So killer work, Jack. If you've got more Nurgle stuff coming, be sure to post it in the group so that we can all see it. The next figure we have in the line is actually 3 figures on one base. It's called German High Command by Bob Smith. I saw all the individual figures being painted for this one, and I really liked how it was turning out. And once the entire diorama, if you will, was posted, I was blown away by the attention to detail. Not only in just the base and then doing everything on the soldiers, the officers, and our Führer figure there, but he also went ahead and added the map. And I'm no expert, but that map, I bet, if we ask Bob, is probably something similar to some actual map. So his attention to detail there was really good, because you can see the river running through the center. You can see the road, and then the line of demarcation there, probably indicating no man's land, and then all of the other dots and stuff to indicate either units or troops or maybe even other features in the terrain. So great job with this one. I love seeing little dioramas like this for bolt action. Where is our next entry? David Ryder. David Ryder turned in a Herald of Pestilence. I believe that's the figure's name. If I'm wrong, I apologize. I do know it's out of the Dark Imperium set. But again, this is another example of keeping the paint job really clean, to let all the details speak for themselves and stand out. The only place where the weathering gets chunky and gritty is up on the bell itself, but that works because the bell has like a bunch of skulls and stuff on it. And then the patina on it is starting to look really worn down, and that weathering just helps to really tie that together. And then David also even did a little bit of a CGI effect around his model, to kind of give it that look like it's on the battlefield, kind of like how we used to see in the old White Dwarfs, where they would add the special effects, like smoke and stuff like that, as they were playing the bat reps. But yeah, really awesome work, David. Can't wait to see some more. Okay, so moving on to the next one, we have Lyle Alfred, who turned in an Arjak Rockfist. And Lyle was doing this one, and it was almost down to the wire with it, but I'm glad he was able to get it turned in. Arjak is the only Space Wolves model aside from, I believe, the new. There's a couple of new ones that I don't have, but I've always admired Arjak, and apparently, according to the comments section of the submission, he's pretty OP in the game currently. So maybe I have to pick one up, just to really see what all the fuss is about. But I love the detail that's on the shield as well as the hammer itself. Arjek's pose is kind of very dynamic, indicating motion and stuff. And it's because Arjek can throw his hammer. So if somebody says that his pose is kind of funny, it's not actually that it's wrong. It's just because of the way that he swings the sword, or I'm sorry, not the sword, the hammer, um, when he throws it, kind of like a boomerang for it to come back, almost like Thor. But killer work. Um, can't wait to see some more stuff out of that Space Wolves army. Okay, so next up we have Justin Bieber with a custom Big Mac. Sounds like a custom Big Mac there. Um, he made his mech with what seems to be either the top half of the mech that comes out of the Luda box, or possibly a knob torso and head with a cromlech lower half. I think it's cromlech. Justin, please correct me if I'm wrong. But that lower torso is basically tank treads and smokestacks and DACA and all kinds of stuff. And looks like Justin also added a custom mega field or custom field generator on this Big Mac. The thing that really stands out on this model is the way that Justin's done a great job of weathering the white panels and chipping the blue panels to really make it look like some secondhand scrap metal that has been cobbled together to represent orc armor and stuff, which orcs are known for. And every angle of this model has something for you to look at and admire. Also did a great job with the skin tone. I myself am a big fan of the more muted tones for the orc flesh, so that's a big plus for me. But overall, everything about this figure is pretty good. Definitely would like to see it in a full squad with the Ludas sitting up on a hill blasting some DACA. But yeah, really awesome work with this one, Justin. You really outdid yourself, man. Good work. Next up, after Justin, we have Josh Schaub, who turned in a Typhus. And unlike some of the other entries, this is not a custom Typhus from the Lord of Contagion. This is an original Typhus model from previous editions. I believe it came out around 3rd or 4th. My favorite one, I like the metal one, or I like the plastic one rather, but this metal one is where it's at for me, especially because he has the plague fleet up on his back there. Gosh, I can't remember the name of it right now, but the model itself had a lot of character, so I'm not sure. I guess they just wanted to release a plastic one, but I don't see why, because this particular figure, the metal one, has so much character on it. It's got all the sensors and stuff all over the place, and that scythe is just so wicked. There has not been another scythe produced by Games Workshop or just about any other company really that is compared to the look of that one. I know that now the Death Guard models actually have the unit of Man Reapers that have them, and you can kind of do a conversion with that. But this original one is where it's at for me. I really like how Josh kept the very green palette. I know he was saying that the colors seem to have gotten washed out a bit in his photos, but I think contrast really seems apparent, and it's a good thing though, because it's a very iconic figure, and so you want a lot of contrast on it to stand out like the way it does. And he's got the purple on the little nurglings and stuff offsetting the dark green, and then the bone color on the plague fleet on his back there. The mini is just really well done, but then in addition to the awesome work on the mini, Josh did a really great job with that base and adding the goopy, nasty Nurgle, probably Nurgle's rot or something, to make it look like everything is just turning to rot and decay. You can even see that he's added a couple of gears and stuff on the base, possibly just some battlefield debris that's been left behind. But again, just a really great job with this figure. Um, Definitely lots to turn around on the model and find and appreciate. Um, so really great job with that one, Josh. And our last contestant is going to be Jordan Heckman, um, who had a buzzer beater. He turned in Van Zandt um, from the Infinity range. And for those that don't know, the character of Van Zandt in Infinity is a bit of a parody of a character that Matthew McConaughey played in a movie called Reign of Fire. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, I highly recommend it because it's just cheesy, over-the-top 90s, 2000 movie with dragons and tanks. That's pretty much all you need to know about it. But the Van Zandt figure um, that Jordan did looks so much like the character from the movies, because he's got that leather jacket that's worn and beaten and stuff, and then he's got his woodland camo pants and stuff. And in the movie, he actually has an axe that looks an awful lot like the one that the figure has. Um, so everything that's in the movie is kind of captured on this figure. Um, Jordan did a really good job of picking out all those pieces. He even did a really great job with the face and kind of picking out that beard on the very edge of the face. And I don't think it's actually sculpted on. I think Jordan went in and just kind of painted it on because that's the way he was in the movie. He had a beard. Um, but just, oh my goodness, phenomenal job with this one. Um, it seems like I know he was probably rushing to get it done, but dude, this turned out really good. Don't feel like you shorted us or anything like that because it's a pretty cool looking figure, and even just the simple base work keeps your attention on the figure and how cool the pose is. A very stoic sort of, um, you know, awesome kick-ass dude surveying the battlefield to see where he needs to go next. You know, and he's going to see that dragon and he's going to go, all right, all right, all right. But yeah, really great work with this one, man. Hats off to you for turning this one in at the buzzer, as they say. Okay, guys, and after much deliberation, and first of all, I just want to say that you guys did not make it easy to pick uh, one that stood out above the rest for this month's challenge. So I just want to say again a huge, huge um, thank you and big round of applause to everybody that submitted something this month. Um, you guys have done some stellar work, each and every one of you. Um, it was literally down to splitting hairs, like they say on the Food Network. Sometimes it's just the most minor detail, and things that kind of as a whole make the model above the rest. Um, and again, that margin was so razor thin um, that this has been the most difficult month to pick a single winner for. Um, but with that in mind, um, this month's winner is Patrick Odell with his Primaris captain of his custom chapter, the Scarab Lords. Everything about this figure um, embodies what it is in this hobby to kind of create a character or an HQ, or in some cases both, and that's exactly what this figure is. Um, since day one from this challenge, Patrick has been piecing this guy together um, and building him from the ground up, um, coming up with the aesthetic that he wanted, testing out the paint scheme, everything that he's been doing has been for this one particular model because he really wanted it to stand out for not only his place as a captain, but also as the leading example for his army. Um, so the paint scheme is really good, really sharp and clean. Subtle highlights on that armor edging and stuff. And then the the Thousand Suns motifs that he made look um, loyalist. That's a really big props to him for doing that. Overall, the model is just like a really well done centerpiece for his model for his army, um, and even the little details like the scarab uh, icon on his shoulder pads that it looks like he got printed out and used new custom decals for, um, and then the markings on his helmet to indicate some sort of either status or achievement, kind of how some chapters use the laurel wreaths and color schemes on their helmets to denote stuff like that. Um, Everything on this model has been meticulously crafted to add to the theme. If it didn't add to the theme, it doesn't look like Patrick put it on there. But again, just awesome work. You know, keep it up, man. Can't wait to see the rest of this army though on the battlefield. I hope you pursue the rest of this army in this paint scheme and share it with the group. And with that, that's a wrap for this month's painting challenge. I apologize to everybody for it taking a little bit longer, but I had some technical difficulties with the microphones that I hope got sorted out for the rest of my videos to come. Um, I just want to say again, I sound like a broken record here, but each and every one of you guys did some stellar work, um, and again, that's kind of what we're all here for, is to share and improve and grow in our favorite hobby. So keep up the great work, guys, and don't forget to paint all the minis. Um, this is Landy signing off for this video. Don't forget, next month's challenge is going to be coming up right around the corner. I believe the theme for this coming month is going to be to paint a figure. Um, I believe the theme is called Last Action Hero. I might be wrong. If I am, I apologize. But the theme is going to be to paint a figure in an action pose or in the thick of it, or maybe even somebody who's received some wounds or battle damage or something like that. But more details on that when we post it, so keep an eye out for that on the page, guys. And I will catch you guys in the next one.